All right, here with Lucas Parker, 6-time CrossFit Games athlete. Lucas, I know you just got into China today. How are things going? What you been up to?
I've been trying to stay awake mostly. Oh. Want to start again?
Yeah, we're good.
You interrupted.
No, you're fine. It's on. We literally intro. It's all good. All right, ready?
Yes, Tommy.
All right, here with 6-time CrossFit Games athlete Lucas Parker. Lucas, I know you just got into Chengdu. How's it going, and what you been up to?
It's going well. Mostly just trying to stay awake. We got in super early this morning and spent a good hour kind of nail biting through customs, but got into the country, and then spent a long time trying to get a taxi. No one wanted to take us to our hotel because it was too short of a drive and they weren't going to make enough money.
Oh,
and so someone, a very kind citizen who spoke English, explained that to us, and then he actually ordered us like an Uber or whatever the equivalent is, and on his phone, and didn't ask for any money and helped us get to our hotel. So that was a really nice welcome to the country of oh, there are people here that are open and helping and really cool. Yeah.
Some good Samaritans kind of helping the big red bearded guy out, navigate the city. And so just a little bit beyond that, what are some things that you've been involved with, whether personally or training wise outside of competition?
I teach a lot of my own workshops and seminars. So typically what I'll do is I'll find a competition, let's say in Chengdu or Brazil or wherever, and then, I don't want to go all that way just for 2 days of competition and then go home. So I'll try and find some other stops in the region and sort of make a tour for myself. That's kind of been my model for the past number of years. With the change in the sport, it's a bit harder to plan that now because there are so many sanctionals all over, and you don't really know which ones you're going to until sometimes short window before, based on what the qualifying process is. So that's been a bit of a challenge to navigate, but I can hopefully take advantage of it.
And so now, you kind of mentioned selecting sanctionals. We're here for the Pandaland Challenge. What was attractive about this event to you, and what ultimately led you to decide to come compete here?
So best way to describe that is the contrast between this and Dubai. So those were both right beside each other on the calendar, so I figured I would try and qualify for both and then decide where to compete. I ended up not qualifying for Dubai, so that kind of made my decision for me. But basically, Dubai is 4 days and in the heat, versus Pandaland is 2 days and in very cool weather. So that plays much more to my favor as the type of athlete that I am. So I feel like that'll be a good shot for me at performing well.
And so maybe kind of looking at the sanctionals system as a whole, you've been around since the early days of the sport.
I've been around since sectionals,
yes.
And now we're at sanctionals. So slight changes in the lettering, but big changes in the sport.
Exactly. And how have you been able to manage this? Talk about it from an athlete perspective, what the change has been like for you, and maybe how it's forced you to adjust, not just from picking events, but maybe how you're training it.
I think for me, and this is a discussion I've had with my coach Max from Training Think Tank, it's trying to be, I guess, more of an athlete for more of the year. So typically in the past, a model that I really preferred was more of a classic sort of, yearly training plan or periodization, where you have a big off season and a big on season and you ramp up into each one. But the way the sport is now, it's kind of you need to be a little bit more competition ready all throughout the year, which is a challenge, but if you can do that, then your opportunities increase drastically. So just trying to be a little more relaxed about feeling I need to be working this exact progression of these qualities, and more okay, just being able to fire on all cylinders more quickly.
And with that, being able to fire, like you said, more quickly and probably more frequently, have you still found yourself maybe making some improvements here and there? How is your game and your fitness kind of modeled after that?
Yeah, definitely making improvements. I feel looking back on, I guess I feel like I've sort of been a few athletes in my career. So looking back on the athlete that I was, say a few years ago, I feel a lot more resilient, a lot more injury-free, pain-free, a lot more able and willing to take on, big asks in training, big asks in competition, whether it's from my coach or the, competition organizers.
Yeah. And with that in mind, the goal still is to qualify for the CrossFit Games.
Right.
It's been a couple of years since you've been able to make it back.
It's been a minute.
What needs to happen this weekend, and more so for the season as a whole, for you to get back to that upper echelon?
It's tough to try and paint too much of a picture, because as soon as that doesn't come true, then you feel like you failed. But I think the Yeah, I mean the sport now is everyone is progressing every year. So it's like I feel like I'm becoming a better athlete, but how do you progress at a faster rate than other people to like make up that ground, right? So that's kind of the golden code that everyone's trying to crack, I think. And I feel like my coach is helping me work towards that. And then it sort of is, it's like, well, you got to now win instead of being top 5. So that's a big change in the sport. At regionals, I've won a handful of regionals, but there was always that like mental cushion of like, well, you could have a bad event or whatever, you could come top 5 or top 3 some of the regionals, but now it's like, well, you pretty much got to come first place. So that's a bit of a change to the kind of the mentality and the attack mode that you need to engage. So kind of working on that has been something that I think is important for all athletes, and I'm trying to work on that as well.
Yeah, definitely adds to the drama a little bit with the scope a little bit more narrowed. And then kind of looking at the rest of the season, are there any other events that you kind of have circled or maybe potentially on the plate for going forward?
Definitely. Last year, so the 2019 season, there were no events in Canada. I don't know why, but this 2020 season, I think we have 2 at least. So I'd like to do a Canadian event. I think that'd be pretty cool. I have my eye on the, I guess it's the Can West Games, as well as possibly the West Coast Sanctional.
The
West Coast Classic. So that'll take me sort of back home to my roots on the West Coast, which would be nice.
Yeah. And then, so real quick about this weekend's competition, we have one event that's been announced. It's kind of an ascending barbell load with some legless rope climbs. Thoughts on the workout? What can we expect from you?
I like it. I have typically performed well in rope climb events and heavy clean type events. And I like that that's the first event of the weekend. So typically at, say, the games, when the first event is a big, endurance type thing, that's usually a lower placing for me. And so having to climb out of a hole always sucks. Hopefully, with an event like this, I'll be starting with a higher placement on the leaderboard. So it's always nice to have momentum going into the weekend. They've been pretty tight-lipped with their programming so far. They've released that one event. They dropped sort of maybe a hint for event 2. They called it like Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah.
And so then I was thinking, okay, what is that? Is that like a play on King Kong? That old CrossFit
the
heavy
CrossFit
crazy workout that was like 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever.
That Miko did for 20 minutes. Yeah. That's kind of crazy.
But that has like heavy cleans in it as well as like a gymnastics elements. So that kind of looks like event 1.
Yeah.
So that I'm not really sure what to take from that clue, but I guess we'll see.
Well, good luck, man. We certainly root for you, and
I appreciate
at
that.
the top.
I hope so too. Thanks, bro.